Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. A warm welcome to all of our participants who are here with us as well as online. And do welcome to the Indonesia-Korea joint workshop on accelerating climate technologies and entrepreneurship. My name is Ju-Yeon Cho, and I have been given the honor of being your MC for today. Thank you very much. This workshop goes beyond amicable ties between the two countries, moving on to strengthen strategic partnerships between Indonesia and Korea. And in the wake of certain crisis situations, as well as side effects that were brought on by climate change in Indonesia, this workshop aims to find the most effective and cooperative ways to develop and transfer climate technologies. Of course, we would have much preferred if we were able to bring all of our delegates over here to Korea to have face-to-face meetings and workshops. But due to the spread of COVID-19, we were not able to do so, so we have transitioned this joint workshop online. And we are streaming live through Indonesia's Ministry of Finance YouTube channel, so I hope that all of you will please stay with us until the very end. So now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us begin the Indonesia-Korea joint workshop, Accelerating Climate Technologies and Entrepreneurship. And to start us off on our journey today, allow me to introduce Dr. Febrio Kakaribu, the chairman of the Fiscal Policy Agency at the Ministry of Finance in Indonesia. He is joining us online, so please welcome him on the screen. Dr. Febrio Kakaribu, are you here with us?
Yes.
Yes, thank
shall we
you very
start?
much. Yes, please make your opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. First, allow me to extend my warm welcome to all of the speakers, panelists, and moderators. Ms. Ji-Young Choi, the Director of Green Climate Policy Division, Ministry of Economy and Finance, Republic of Korea. Ms. Laksmi Dewanti, Senior Advisor, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. Mr. Yudi Anantasena, Deputy of Technology and Natural Resources, the Agency for the Assessment and Application of Technology, Indonesia. Mr. Sun Yu Lee, Ms. Sinta Kamdani, Mr. Taeyong Lim, Mr. Joshua Augusta, Mr. Jeong Ta Kim, Mr. Dae Hyun Kim, Mr. Marshall Silvis, and Mr. Wook Sang An, and all of the participants that are joining us in our virtual joint workshop between Indonesia and Korea on accelerating climate technology and entrepreneurship today. This joint workshop, ladies and gentlemen, is initiated by the Ministry of Economy and Finance of the Republic of Korea and the Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia, with the support from the Korean Development Bank and Global Green Growth Institute as the organizers. Indonesia and Korea, as we are all aware, are fully committed signatories of the Paris Agreement. Both countries have each determined a target to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the business as usual level by 2030, so-called nationally determined contribution target, while also increasing the country's resilience towards climate change. Public finance, ladies and gentlemen, for the climate change, including domestic and international flows, is still below the estimated need, especially for developing countries such as Indonesia. In the last 5 years, on average, government of Indonesia had allocated 89.6 billion rupiah per year. That's 89.6 trillion rupiah per year, or that's equivalent to 3.9% of the state budget annually for climate change related budget. This shows that the state budget from 2016 to 2020 have provided around 34% of the financing needs to achieve the NDC target. However, due to budget reallocation and refocusing policies, particularly due to the COVID-19 crisis, the state budget's capacity to meet annual climate change financing could be lower. The COVID-19 crisis presents both challenge and also opportunities for this financing shortfall. Therefore, the government of Indonesia requires a mobilization of private financing from many sources. Ladies and gentlemen, advancement of technology has provided a new and also promising option for responding to the adverse impacts of the climate change. Climate technology could offer more effective and resource-efficient way to implement climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts. Often, these technologies came from fresh ideas from emerging startups, which contributed last year, actually 2019, around $3 trillion to the global economy. In Indonesia, we have also benefited greatly from this constantly developing startups culture in our technology sector. The internet economy has been flourishing in Indonesia and contributed greatly to the economic growth of Indonesia. Indonesia's internet economy is currently and will continue to be the biggest in Southeast Asia, predicted to reach $124 billion value in 2025, with average growth rate of 49% each year since 2015. The capital investment in startup ecosystem remains healthy despite the pandemic condition. In the first half of 2020, Indonesia gained 74% of the capital investment shares in Southeast Asia. These investments are channeled directly to individual startups as well as through incubators and also accelerators, which resulted in more seed funding for smaller startups. Various innovations have been accelerated by these tech startups, recognizing the potential in contributing to climate actions. They also began eyeing the climate technology. The scope ranged widely from renewable energy and energy efficiency sector, also smart agriculture, also to integrated waste management and circular economy in general. Realizing the potential of further encouraging the growth of this technopreneurship and the need to encourage collaboration among stakeholders for implementing climate actions, government of Indonesia began to formulate incentives for entrepreneurs and also private sectors to contribute to the climate actions. These incentives include tax incentives, regional incentive funds, and waste management service fees, project development facility, and credit enhancement facility. External climate finance mechanisms such as Green Climate Fund, GCF, also provides incentives for private sectors to access their funding in efforts to develop strong climate projects in developing countries like Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, Republic of Korea has been one of the leaders in the technology development and innovation globally as a result of their strong skills and investment in research and development. According to the OECD Science, Technology and Industry Scoreboard, back in 2015, Republic of Korea's research and development spending as a share of GDP has doubled to reach one of the highest levels in the OECD area over the past 20 years. In terms of climate technology, Republic of Korea has successfully implemented their research and development in several climate-friendly innovations, including rechargeable battery technology, carbon capture and storage technology, smart grids, and sewage treatment. Both Republic of Korea and Republic of Indonesia each has their own strength to offer to provide tangible climate solutions, which become the underlying idea of this joint workshop today. This joint workshop today aims to exchange experience and explore the potential collaboration between relevant stakeholders in climate technology and entrepreneurship in Korea and Indonesia. The strategic partnership between the two countries will be beneficial to the development and knowledge transfer of climate technology in Indonesia. We will begin the joint workshop with a panel discussion on financing climate actions in Indonesia, then progress to the need and priorities assessment related to the climate technology in Indonesia, and conclude the discussion later with the potential way forward and expected pathway to realize the acceleration for the climate technology innovation through entrepreneurship in Indonesia. Hopefully, this discussion through this virtual workshop would greatly contribute as a push to support the successful climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts, not only in Indonesia, in Korea, but also globally. That's all I can say. Thank you very much and have a very good joint workshop.
Thank you once again for your great remarks. Please give him a big round of applause. Thank you very much. And as Dr. Kakaribu has just mentioned, I hope that this joint workshop will be the first in many to come. And he also mentioned the collaboration for technopreneurship. I believe that that will also be ahead in our discussions. Well, thank you very much for setting the overall tone. And following suit, please welcome Director Ji Young-chae of the Green Climate Policy Division from the Ministry of Economy and Finance in Korea. She is here with us today on site, so please give her an extra warm round of applause.
Dr. Fabio Nathan Kakaribu, Chairman of the Fiscal Policy Agency, Ms. Diane Lostari, Acting Director of Center for Climate Finance and Multilateral Policy of the Fiscal Policy Agency at Indonesia's Ministry of Finance, Mr. Marcel Silvius, Country Representative of the GGGI in Indonesia, Ho Che, General Manager of ESG New Deal Planning Department at Korea Development Bank, and ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us today at the Indonesia-Korea Joint Workshop. Selamat sore. Nice to meet you all. Since 2015, Korea's Ministry of Economy and Finance has invited government officials and other representatives from many countries to share with them the recent trends in global climate action and to discuss ways that effectively utilize climate finance and implement climate projects. We are holding today's workshop online with Indonesia's Ministry of Finance, despite the unusual circumstances due to COVID-19, to share with you Korea's Green New Deal policies and vision for 2050 carbon neutrality with the aim to maintain the momentum for climate action. Distinguished guests, as COVID-19 highlights the gravity and the urgency of climate action, key countries, including the G20, have introduced net zero targets and green recovery policies, making green economy transition the mainstream agenda. The Korean government is also working to transform its green policy paradigm from adaptive reduction policies of the past to proactive measures that set new economic and social structures. In this context, the Green New Deal was introduced as part of the Green New Deal, the national growth strategy to adopt a low-carbon and eco-friendly economic foundation. At the same time, President Moon's announcement of the vision for 2050 carbon neutrality and the long-term low greenhouse gas emission development strategies has further accelerated the transition toward the green economy. Amid the growing wave of climate action, I believe that today's workshop will provide an opportunity to build partnerships with Indonesia for climate action. Ladies and gentlemen, Korea have cooperation with Indonesia through various channels. Korea will support the green development cooperation with Indonesia in 3 aspects. First, we will engage in bilateral and multilateral partnerships to strengthen the technical and project support in areas of the Green New Deal. Compared to other advanced countries, Korea is under a tighter schedule to reach carbon neutrality. Our economic and energy structures still largely depend on the manufacturing industry and coal power, making it more challenging for us to reduce our emissions. Nevertheless, Korea's green growth policies has been successful. Korea has been a leading country in terms of green technology, holding the largest market share in electric vehicle battery and energy storage system, and being responsible for 40% of the world hydrogen fuel cell supply. In addition, we have the best digital technology that can work to bring synergy with this green technology. These include semiconductors, which are part of the fourth industrial revolution, and mobile networks such as the 5G, which Korea was the first to commercialize. Based on such experience and expertise in green growth, we will continue to contribute to climate action and sustainable growth of developing countries by expanding both our bilateral initiatives, such as the EDCF and KESP, and multilateral cooperation, such as through the ADB. Furthermore, we plan to utilize the Green Growth Fund at the World Bank and the GGGI to develop additional projects for technical cooperation in line with Korea's Green New Deal. We also plan to support capacity building on carbon pricing and share our best practice models with the ASEAN region by establishing a Korea-ASEAN carbon dialogue. Second, Korea plans to expand our support for the GCF, the largest multilateral climate fund. As a donor, a board member, and the host country, Korea has been highly engaged in the GCF's full institution of the UNFCCC financial mechanism and the expansion of projects over the years. As a result, the GCF has approved projects for $23.3 billion as of the end of 2020, with 5 projects for $2.11 billion in Indonesia. Going forward, Korea will take an active role in board meetings to speed up the policy discussions and in coordinating between the developed and developing country constituencies with productive solutions that enhance the effectiveness of support. In addition, we will support the successful implementation of the Supporting Innovative Mechanism for Industrial Energy Efficiency Financing in Indonesia, a GCF project being implemented by the Korea Development Bank for higher energy efficiency in old industrial facilities in Indonesia, and the collaborative R&D program for promoting the innovation of climate technopreneurship that supports the joint climate technology project between promising businesses in Korea and Indonesia. We will also contribute to expanding the project base of the GCF and support other development partners of Korea, such as Korea Exim Bank, KOICA, that have the co-financing capacity and development cooperation experience in Indonesia so that they can participate as an accredited entity. Lastly, we will strengthen international cooperation to bring synergy to global action against climate change. To achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, Korea will play a role in accelerating the global green transition by setting an ambitious NDC for year 2030 and submitting it to the UN by 2025. At the same time, we will work with international climate organizations located in Korea, such as the GCF and the GGGI, to become a hub for the mitigation and adaptation efforts of developing countries. Korea will be hosting the P4G summit in May this year and lead the discussion on the role of the Green New Deal in achieving carbon neutrality. Ladies and gentlemen, I heard there is an Indonesian proverb, walk to the border, sail to the island, which highlights the need to continue pursuing what you have started. The first country Korea invested in was Indonesia, and it will become the first partner country to work on a project with the GCF accredited entity of Korea. I hope today's workshop not only provides the venue to share our policies for the transition to a green economy, but also builds the foundation for joint action between the two countries against climate change in the long term. Once again, I look forward to a successful workshop and meaningful outcomes today. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Yes, please do give her another big round of applause. And of course, to our online participants as well, please, a big round of applause. Thank you. Well, it was very impressive, that walk to the border and sail to the island. I think that that could also be an umbrella theme for today's workshop. But now that we have set the stage, ladies and gentlemen, let us begin the first session. Our first session is titled A Financing Focus, Catalyzing Investments in Climate Actions in Indonesia. And we'll have a plenary presentation as well as a panel discussion followed by a Q&A session. So with that, allow me to introduce our panelists. In the first session, we have the participation of Mr. Marcel Silvius, Country Representative of GGGI Indonesia. Thank you once again. Also, Mr. Leo Hyungun Park, a Financial Institutions Manager from the GCF Private Sector Facility. Ms. Lakshmi Dewanti, Senior Advisor to the Minister of Environment and Forestry at Indonesia. Ms. Sun-Yi Lee, Deputy Director of the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Korea, is also joining us. Ms. Shinta Kamdani, co-founder of Anjin Indonesia, is also here with us. And last but not least, Mr. Chung Wan-ryu, Director at the Export-Import Bank of Korea. Please give all of our 6 panelists a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you once again for your participation and your time. And with this, I will give the floor over to our moderator, Mr. Marcel Silvius. Mr. Silvius, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And welcome everybody to this very interesting session on Indonesian-Korean cooperation on investments for climate action in Indonesia. We have a very interesting panel today, but before we go to all the panelists, we will have a scene setting done by Mr. Leo Hyungun Park. Mr. Leo Hyungun Park is the Financial Institutions Manager at the Green Climate Fund. And he is also a Corporate Sustainability Officer, leading GCF Secretariat's internal sustainability related efforts. And so prior to GCF, he spent a lot of his time, a lot of his career in climate finance and project finance at the Korean Development Bank. He also designed legislation of emissions trading scheme with the Korea's Presidential Committee on Green Growth. So he really has a lot of experience with regard to climate finance. And he's going to give us an introduction on how to attract capital and finance for climate change mitigation and adaptation activities, which he labels as a continuing problem. So Mr. Leo Park, I welcome you very much, and I ask the audience to welcome you too. And I would like to give the floor to you now. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Marcel. Let me please share my screen first. So the function is disabled.
Could the coordinators enable Mr. Leo Park's sharing functions, please. Is it still disabled, Mr. Park?
Yes.
Could you
So while
organize,
waiting,
please?
yeah,
Okay,
so
go
I
ahead.
guess we're waiting, yeah, for the host to allow me to enable the screen sharing function. I first of all wanted to express my sincere gratitude to both, Minister of Finance in Indonesia as well as Minister of Economy and Finance from Korea. It's also good to be reconnected with you, Marcel. Always a pleasure working with the GTGI Indonesia team. I mean, it's a big topic, how to unlock and mobilize private sector capital for climate investments. But there is, and there are many ways to do that. And today I'm just going to share one particular modality that GCF has been spearheading globally, which is a green bank model. And I'm pretty sure that, this model can be replicated in Indonesia with one agency in particular that has been established very recently. So with this, I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Hopefully it's visible. Let me just do the full screen. Can you see the slide, Marcel?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So given that I don't have much time, I'll try to keep my intervention short. I guess I don't have to spend too much time on explaining the GCF. So in short, basically the GCF is the world's largest dedicated climate fund set up by UNFCCC, which we have and which has a mandate to again help developing countries to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and enhance their ability to respond to climate change. And the next slide shows a brief history of the GCF and the journey started back in 2010. And moving forward, last year we have successfully completed our first replenishment, where we received just below 10 billion USD during our again GCF1 replenishment stage, and we look forward to receiving remaining 2 billion check from the US with the new administration, so which is going to be quite exciting for us. And of course, with this funding, we have approved many projects, many of which are under implementation. And we continue, working with increasing number of accredited entities, which include PTSMI from Indonesia, as well as Korea Development Bank in Korea. And when it comes to the GCF modality, there are mainly 3 funding windows, which includes readiness that can be used for policy level interventions, and we also provide grant funding for project preparation facility. And then, of course, we provide, the regular funding through the funding proposals. And then we try to strike the balance between the mitigation and adaptation. And when it comes to adaptation, we would like to, prioritize those that are more vulnerable to climate change. And the list includes small island developing states, least developed countries, and Africa. So the model I briefly mentioned to you, the name can be, broader than just green banks. We use both green banks and green bank-like entities, but these are just financial institutions or government agency that are dedicated to finance environmental and climate projects. And there are about 24 green banks around the world, and then more are trying to become again green banks around like 25 countries. And we do believe that this model has many merits because you do need a dedicated institution that has 100% and green and climate mandate, or we could try to repurpose existing banks or development banks to make them more green and sustainable. So that's kind of the work that we are trying to do, and I'll try to show you some of the examples. So this is the probably one of the most exciting projects that we have approved so far, which is called the Mongolia Green Finance Corporation, and we have worked with our partner Hasbank, which is a commercial bank in Mongolia, and they decided to help create this Mongolia Green Finance Corporation to help the entire banking sector. And this has the model is quite unique because this is actually the first time GCF is providing equity into a fully fledged institution alongside the government of Mongolia, as well as the consortium of commercial banks. And then GCF on top of that will provide concessional loans. So that the initial size will be 50 million in total, and that will be again channeled through the local financial institutions in Mongolia, mainly for energy efficiency projects in the beginning. And then I mentioned to you about three modalities when it comes to accessing funding from GCF, and we basically use all three tools for this project. So we started again with the readiness program together with the GGGI, the Mongolia office, and they are the one who again completed the scoping study, and then they basically came up with a basic skeleton of MGFC, and then we moved to the project preparation facility with Hasbank. And then you can see some of the components that we have undertaken, and then it was finally approved last year. And there are other countries such as Cambodia, who is trying to explore the similar option, and then other countries we are exploring include Rwanda, as well as some of the African countries, and maybe South Pacific Island as well. So how can we replicate this model in Indonesia? Indonesia, they have established the BPDLH, which is an environmental fund or agency. But then, compared to other public-owned agencies, they allowed, BPDLH to receive funding from, international donors such as GCF, or as well as other types of entities. So we could again work with them to finance, project directly, or channel funding via the local financial institutions. So of course, we have also PTSMI, a very important accredited entity of the GCF that can help build capacity of a BPDLH, as well as channeled funding from the GCF until such time that BPDLH can become a fully accredited entity of the GCF. And then there is a publication that we launched in 2019. So if if there are those who are interested in exploring this type of concept, please, I would like to invite you to take a look at this report. With this, I'll end my presentation. I look forward to again hearing very fruitful conversation today, and I hand back the floor to you, Marcel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leo, for this opening remarks, setting the scene for our further discussion with a very interesting panel, who are going to give us their insights from the different perspectives, different angles from society. So we have Ibu Laxmi Dewanti, who is the Senior Advisor to the Ministry on Industry and International Trade of Indonesia, of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, in Indonesia. And she will be giving us a perspective on financial gap analysis to fulfill Indonesia's climate commitments. Mrs. Laxmi studied environment and development policy at the Sussex University in the UK, and has been involved in trade negotiations on environment and climate change. And she also represented the Asia region as a board member of the Clean Development Mechanism. She's also the president of the Asia Pacific Roundtable for Sustainable Consumption and Production, and was appointed as the Global Environment Facility Operation focal point in Indonesia. So again, Ibu Laxmi has a lot of experience with climate-related finance. A second panel member will be Mrs. Sunyi Lee, the Deputy Director of the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Korea, and she's in charge of the General Affairs for Official Development Assistance in the field of environment in International Cooperation Department of the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Korea. And she joined the ministry in 1997 and has worked in many fields of environment related to atmosphere and climate. And she's also in charge of the bilateral collaboration and international development cooperation project centered on the ASEAN countries. A third panel member is Shinta Kamdani. Ibu Shinta Kamdani is the CEO of the Synthesa Group and the co-founder of Engine, or do we call it Angin, Ibu Shinta? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So it's the angel investment network in Indonesia. And Ibu Shinta has been chosen by the United Nations one of the 30 global corporate leaders to join the global investors for sustainable development. So it will be very interesting to hear your perspectives later. The fourth panel member is Mr. Young-Wan Ryu, head of the Export-Import Bank of Korea. So Mr. Ryu Young-Wan will be giving us the perspectives from the Exim Bank. He has been the director of the Trust Fund for Coordination and the advisory team for MDB Operations Department of the Exim Bank in Korea. And he has been joining the bank only very recently, I believe. Before that, you worked in New Delhi as a representative office for the Exim Bank for 3 years. And you've collaborated with the Ministry of Finance. I must say, you didn't join the bank very recently, but you joined the bank already in 2004. And so you've been gaining a lot of experience, I'm sure, over that period. But working closely with also the World Trade Organization, the Department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade of the Republic of Korea, and a senior economist. So I would like to start with the panelists with a few general questions. I mean, the global finance landscape with regard to climate has changed significantly over the past years, and particularly now also with the COVID-19 crisis. Fabio of the Indonesian Fiscal Policy Agency mentioned in his opening remarks the major gap in finance to achieve the NDC targets. So I would like to ask the panel members, could you give me your perspectives on the current situation of global climate investment and how this is impacting on your planning and the planning of your agency and your decision making? So I would like to start with Ibu Lakshmi. Can I give the floor to you, Ibu?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marshall. And good afternoon, everybody, distinguished speakers, participants. Thank you for the questions. Indeed, it is very important to address such question because nowadays we have quite numbers of challenge that we need to facing. This current pandemic COVID-19, it's really impacted our effort in dealing with environmental protection and management, especially in Indonesia. So it's including efforts in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. Even before the pandemic COVID-19, we still have a gap between the needs of the finance for the sustainable development, including the climate finance, and the availability of the resources. So closing the gap, it's the most important challenge that we are facing now. Then the pandemic came. So we certainly will not slide back our target. We're still committed to our target, especially the NDC target. So now we need to more effectively to make the all the resources and the utilizations of the resources in more effective way. So in terms of Indonesia, in doing so, currently we are well, if we are talking about how to incentive the current effort, including the climate change protections effort, mitigations and adaptations, the government of Indonesia would like to, of course, strengthen the mechanism of the environment fund and the resources of our fund. And the second, we need to create and to be more innovative in creating the incentive for all the stakeholders. And the third, we are now creating or promoting the creations of market with many various. Pak Febrio has mentioned quite numbers of innovative policy action done by Indonesia, and in terms of the environmental field, indeed we would like to move toward that directions. We have at least in terms of financing for our climate actions, we are having 4 strategies. The first strategy is to make our fiscal policy more effective and efficient, and the second is how to make all the investment and activities in Indonesia more attractive to the private sector investment, and the third, continue to promoting the innovative financing instrument, and the fourth is we need to improve access to various global finance, including the Green Climate Fund, the GEF, and other global finance resources. I think that's my response to your questions, Marcel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Lakshmi. But could I ask one more question? What would be your key recommendations to the private companies on how they can effectively tap into climate finance in Indonesia?
Yeah. Well, as a country, we already have the NDC, and we are now having the NDC strategy and roadmap. So I really encourage all the stakeholders to really taking care or read carefully the NDC and its roadmap, because we need to have more synergy actions and effort in having that in dealing with this challenging. So my suggestion is to really know what the needs and the targets of our national policy, and of course, as a government agency, we are open to all stakeholders in providing data and information that they might need in creating or in designing their effort. And last but not least, of course, the communication and collaborations. So we are very open in establish more communication and collaborations with all stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Lakshmi. So let me move now to Ibu Shinta Kamdani. Ibu Shinta, as CEO of the Synthesa Group and co-founder of the Angel Investment Network in Indonesia, could you give me your perspectives on the current situation on global climate investment and how that is impacting your planning as a CEO, and also what your recommendations would be to other private companies on how they can work with climate finance, how they can get access to climate finance?
Yeah, thank you, Marcel. So I think for over the past 10 years, there has been a steady increase in climate finance globally. I think annual climate finance flows between 2017 and 2018 is already about 24% higher than average from the year before. However, it is also estimated the increase over to 2019. We will see that the fast investment through 2050 over $1.6 to 3.8 trillion for new climate investment is required. So the question is, if this is required to achieve the low emission resilient, to achieve this goal for Paris Agreement, what can we do? So we find that during the COVID-19 pandemic, there seems to be quite a regress, and this is what worrying us, because what we found is the data, for example, on renewable energy investment globally has been dropped by 34%. And this is something that we also pay a lot of attention in Indonesia. especially on renewable energy. As you know, even prior to COVID, transition of energy is already quite challenging for Indonesia because it's of course related to subsidized fossil fuels and so forth. So cost has been always a big issue. While we want to, there are many companies who want to invest. There has been the challenging of the ecosystem, the regulatory framework. Ibu Laksmi talks about incentives and so forth. So hence the ambitions and innovative policy for sustainable recovery and even greater collaboration among public and private actors will be needed, I think, to achieve these climate goals. Also to achieve the current investment trend that needs to significantly shift towards a more low emission and carbon resilient development. Now, we at the Syntesa Group, I just want to share that we have been pioneering actually this agenda, and we have, I can share later, but we have what we call the roadmap of SDG in Syntesa, which we are focusing on integrating SDG in our business model, and we're first focusing on investment on climate change through the business that we are in. So of course we are in renewable. That's our big portfolio on the renewable energy, doing geothermal, solar. Also, we started with actually clean gas power plant, clean energy. But we also move to what we call the ecotourism. We move into circular economy and so forth. The way to look from the private sector is also bringing private sector together. That's why we have championed to set up a coalition, a business coalition to bring this private sector together and share best practices. We talk about, of course, financing today, but technology is definitely a big part of it. So I think we need to change our investment mindset from short term to investing toward value-based investing, where we see the values of investment not only from the lens of profitability, but also to provide solution for climate challenge. And this is something that we've been trying to drive private sectors. Maybe it's easier for big companies, but definitely for the small, medium enterprises, it's more challenging. And this is where I also come in as Angin. On a broader aspect, there's also, I think now, a widening array for conventional financial instrument opportunity that will be channeled towards climate goals. And rather than stay focused on deploying funds on traditional investing scheme, we should also shift toward what we can create more opportunity for ESG investing or even impact investing. And some instrument that can be allocated into more innovative financing, such as a blended finance scheme. Moscow, this is something that we are introducing. So budget combination from grants, from government non-budget investment financing to zakat, which is more budget financing. Bonds, a statement of debt from the bond issuer to the bond holder. Among this is something also that we're looking into. Green Sukuk, Indonesia has launched its Green Sukuk, a Sharia security whose ancient proceeds are used to finance environmental projects. Green Climate Fund, obviously, and impact investing. I think this is something that I would like to highlight because this is definitely new way of innovative mechanism that aim to generating more financial and environmental impact. And it can also be in the form of equity investing or debt or loan. This also offer a more wide range of return expectation across the risk return spectrum on average interest rate. So this is something that we are currently pushing. And actually, I'm now in the preparation of launching what we call the Indonesia Impact Fund. So this is very exciting in supporting investing in startup that does SDG. There are also other, of course, innovative finance from the private sector, such as crowdfunding, sangat, that further could be channeled for climate-related solutions. So many of these, I think, are new, exciting, innovative financing that we are currently working in Indonesia. And through the coalition, we are now also working with many institutions, including the banks, for sustainable finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Shinta. So let me then pass now to Mr. Ryu, Mr. Jungwan Ryu, the Director of the Trust Fund for Coordination and the Advisory Team on MDB Operations of the Exim Bank. Mr. Ryu, what is your perspective on the climate finance situation at the moment in the world, and how is that impacting the work of the Exim Bank? And could you give me, from the bank's perspective, a recommendation on how private companies could actually effectively tap into climate finance through your bank?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Silvius. I think it is a very good question to start our discussions with. Several years have passed since Paris Climate Agreement, and finally, national policies and market signals are reflect the importance of low emission and climate resilient projects. There cannot be denying the fact that the need for climate finance is consistently increasing. Although we have agreed to support $100 billion annually to address climate change, the target itself seemed a little bit ambitious, considering the fact that support from OECD countries was around $58.5 billion from 2015 to 2018. Nevertheless, according to the 2018 assessment by the SCF, climate finance flows increased by 17% in the period of 2015 to 2016 compared to the period of 2013 to 2014. In the COVID-19 pandemic situation, however, I believe developing countries' access to climate finance can be significantly undermined. So, in this regard, I believe the role of public finance, such as ODA, financing from DFIs, and climate funds, should be much highlighted. Although finance may be smaller in scale as compared to private finance, but we cannot rule out the fact that public finance's ability to leverage could be especially critical in this pandemic situation. So, from Korea Exim Bank point of view, we are not only an ECA supporting climate, we are also a government entrusted institution responsible for EDCF, which is the concessional lending arm of Korea's ODA. So as part of Korea's national development strategy, the Korean government announced the Korean New Deal initiative. It seeks to support the country's recovery from the pandemic crisis and to lead global actions with the international community. One of the main pillars of this is the Green New Deal, which emphasizes green transition of infrastructures, low carbon and decentralized energy supply, and innovation in the green industry. In response to this, Korea Exim Bank has reflected the Green New Deal initiative in our recent management strategy. We have selected 5 key sectors, including renewable energy, energy storage, vehicles, and we also established comprehensive frameworks to support such sectors. So I would say, yes, we are much influenced by the climate finance flow. And we will continuously work with partner countries, development banks, and private investors to scale up the growth of climate finance. So as a matter of fact, we are sending letters to MDBs indicating our preferred sectors for co-financing. And of course, climate change is much emphasized. So in conclusion to how it will influence us, I would say that the more role Korea Exim Bank is assigned to, I believe we will be able to contribute much more, not only by DCF, but working with private investors, using our client bases as a bank as well. So lastly, about your questions regarding recommendations to private companies. I think I get these questions a lot, but simple answer would be that it is always better to engaging in discussions in the early stage of the project. Discussing project ideas and concepts with the relevant ministries, MDBs, ECAs, bilateral agencies will help formulate appropriate financial schemes so as to make the project more bankable in the end. The Korea Exim Bank is equipped with a wide range of modalities, including loans, guarantees, investments, financial advisory services, to provide the best financial solutions for our clients. So also we are entrusted with the EDCF. As you may know, we also issued a green bond amounting to $500 million back in 2013 as the first Asian financial institution. Since then, the number of green bond issuance has increased, securing sufficient funds to channel into green projects. So I would say wide range of sector-specific programs, financial schemes exist in various FIs. And this should be well utilized by private companies in realizing their project ideas and concepts. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryu. I would like to ask a follow-up question immediately to you. I mean, you've sketched now in your answer actually the importance also of public finance, even though of course that's much, it will be much less than all the finance that's moving around in the private sector, but it can have this very important, I think, catalytic and facilitating effect. And so the need for blending climate finance, you mentioned GCF. So it's interesting to hear that from a bank, but could you share perhaps some experience from the Exim Bank, some specific projects in developing countries and how you've been able to accomplish this kind of blending, and just maybe one or two examples?
Yes, thank you. Actually, I could give you an example with Indonesia. We have been closely working with the government of Indonesia on a diverse portfolio of climate change, so deploying various means of financial assistance. First, we are currently preparing a policy-based loan for a program with ADB to support the revival of Indonesia's energy sector. The Sustainable and Inclusive Energy Program includes 3 pillars. One would be improving fiscal sustainability and governance. So 2, expanding private investments. And 3, promoting the deployment of clean and efficient energy options through 15 interlinked policy actions. So we believe that it will help us to attract more private investments by improving the efficiency of energy sector permission procedures. So other projects I can mention the smart water management system in Samarang City, which will benefit from an EDCF loan of $75 million. and the engineering services project for multipurpose dams, rivers, and coastal to be financed through EDCF's project preparation loan amounting to 32 million US dollars. And besides these sovereign projects, Korea Exim Bank will also support the Korean bulk water supply project, for example. This is a PPP project which aims to supply tap water to 3 western regions of the metropolitan area, including Jakarta. The Korea Water Resources Corporation recently won the tender. This project amounting to 165 million US dollars. So various financial instruments from us, including EDPF, which stands for Economic Development Promotion Facility, and our ECA loan, the Overseas Investment Loan, will be utilized to support the construction, management, and operation of this project. And I also want to mention and emphasize that non-lending tools, such as technical assistance, was made available under ADB's eAsia Knowledge Partnership Fund to support electric charging stations and electric vehicles. So this technical assistance is also linked to the Sustainable and Inclusive Energy Program, which is Korea's first program loan with Indonesia. So also I want to thank the Indonesian government. I'm sorry, I recently came back from New Delhi, so please understand. So I would like to thank the government of Indonesia for active support, especially the Ministry of Finance. And we do wish that the program will help the Indonesian government to build on their ambition to take this climate actions further. So I hope this would pretty much answer your question of examples on how we are supporting these projects.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yu. I think that was very elucidating. I would like to get back now to the Indonesian government, so Ibu Laxmi. So listening also to the answers of Mr. Yu and the excellent examples he's been providing on these very interesting projects, I would like to know a little bit more and get a bit more information from you on the strategies of the government with regard to specifically also technology transfer. I think this is going to be crucial in the acceleration of successful, effective climate change mitigation and adaptation projects in Indonesia. So are there particular priority sectors or particular criteria that Indonesia places with regard to projects to ensure this kind of international collaboration, like with the collaboration with the Korean government, on supporting technology transfer? Ibu Laxmi?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Well, thank you. In response to your questions, I think it has already said by Pak Febrio that we have quite ambitious target in our NDC. 29%. It's a unconditional targets, and up to 41% with conditional with international support. So a strong message from our NDC policy is it's now time to walk the talk. Yeah, indeed, it is time for actions. So meaning that it's also a time to mobilize resources. Technology development and technology transfers is one of the modalities that we would like to fulfill. Among others is finance support and capacity building, of course. So with regard with the sector focus, as we put in our first NDC, we have 5 sector priority. Energy, and I believe colleague from Korea has been said quite interesting and important information on how the climate finance will support the technology development and technology transfer. And the second is the AVOLU, or LULUCF, the land use and land use change, including the forestry sectors. The third is the waste management. Waste management is also one of the priority from the government of Indonesia, because we are facing quite challenging condition at the moment with our solid waste management, because we would like to promote not only the 3R, the reduce, reuse, and recycle, but we are also moving toward a circular economy. So, of course, technology development and technology transfer to support this effort, it's very much needed. The other sectors will be the agricultures and transportations. So I believe those 5 sectors might be our priority in terms of putting the resources in regard with technology development and technology transfer to support our NDC targets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Lakshmi. So I'd like to go now to Mrs. Sunyi Lee from the Ministry of Environment of Korea, to now also get a perspective from the Korean government. So Mrs. Sunyi Lee, could you please share your ministry's experience in working with the Indonesian government in the area of climate change mitigation and adaptation, and perhaps share some key lessons with us? What is the ministry level partnership plan for promoting climate resilience in Indonesia? We would be very interested to hear your perspective on this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me at Indonesia-Korea joint workshop. And as you know, Indonesia is very important strategic partner for the Korean government, especially in the area of international cooperation. And as the member of the Korean Environmental Ministry, I strongly hope that this workshop will serve as a great opportunity to advance the bilateral collaborations between 2 countries. Let me start with the bilateral summit in 2017. As you know, in 2017, Indonesia and Korea adopted a joint vision statement at the bilateral summit. And after that, Korea announced a new third policy containing the 3 pivotal keywords: people, peace, prosperity. The Korean government is currently strengthening the cooperation with the Southeast Asian countries, including Indonesia, in a wide range of politics, economy, society, and culture on the basis of its policy. So particularly the Korean Environmental Ministry is actively promoting infrastructure development project focusing on the climate and environmental resilience by the way of eco-friendly transportation, clean energy, and water resources under future-oriented and a mutually beneficial principle. In particular, I think the ODA can be the core platform for overseas investment, especially in the environment. And the Korean environment government has selected and continuously supported the key partner countries to improve the effectiveness of development cooperation. Indonesia is also a very important partner for the Korea's ODA. So our government has invested in the public administration or transportation and environmental protection and water management with $212 million between 2015 and 2019. So actually, I think we should pay attention to the fact that the carbon neutrality has emerged as the new global paradigm since Europe and China and Japan declared the carbon neutrality after the outbreak of the COVID-19. So with the flow of this international community, Korea also announced the 2015 carbon neutral promotion structures in December of last year, so which will be able to facilitate the low carbon economic structure and industrial ecosystem and the transition to a carbon neutral society. Accordingly, the Korea will expand the use of electric hydrogen and then improve innovative energy efficiency and develop and commercialize the future decarbonization the technologies and then strengthen the carbon assertion of nature and ecology. So currently the Korean government is preparing the institutional foundations such as the Green New Deal Framework Act and then the Climate Crisis Response Act so that the 2015 carbon neutral implementation can be steadily progressed in each stage. With this trend, investment in climate change is expected to be increased to facilitate its carbon neutrality in developing countries. The Korean government will finalize the ODA promotion structures for the Green New Deal this year for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and improving climate adaptation in developing countries. So the Green New Deal ODA is the new concept of ODA that adds eco-friendly investment business element to the existing ODA project, which will support build the climate and environmental resilience in the developing countries. In the context, investment in the climate change in Indonesia are expected to be concentrated on strengthening the capabilities for Indonesia's climate change policies and strategies, and then expanding renewable energy supply and managing the flood and improving water supply and utilization. So we hope that Indonesia and Korea will further strengthen cooperation to prepare for a new international order aimed at carbon neutrality and to build a new economic and social structure system that realize economic goals and the quality of life improvement. So in order to achieve these common goals, we'd like to extend Indonesian government active interest and support to develop new projects which meets Indonesia's needs from the initial stages. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Sunyili. May I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
What would be the government of Korea's strategy to catalyze actually more climate investment towards Indonesia? And so in what way could Korea help Indonesia to achieve its NDC targets?
Yes, I think Korea can be a good partner with the technical and policy know-how to solve Indonesia's climate and environmental problems. The Korean government wants Indonesian government to select priority cooperation project operated by the PTSMI among the pipeline project between the countries. We see the Indonesian governments can promote quickly. And about the NDC target, since 2011, the Korean government ministry has been running a training course for government officials and researchers to support the implementation of the national greenhouse gas emission transparency system and improve the climate change response capabilities. So we ask for Indonesians' continued interest in participation in this curriculum. Also, as mentioned above, the Korean government plans to promote projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve climate resilience in developing countries in accordance with the new Green New Deal ODA project. So, and then also, as you know, the GCF is the representative climate resource of the United Nations and requires a high degree of expertise backed by considered budget, manpower, and time. So, Korean Environment Ministry has been providing the financial funding up to $400,000 per year to support the developing country through GCF fund since 2016. So it'll be possible to scale up the matching Korean and aid funds such as grant or concession law. So our government requests the Indonesian government to actively participate in promoting investment of a climate project by utilizing Korea's ODA or GCF programs. Thank you.
So there are a lot of mechanisms actually to scale up funding. But we've heard also from Pa Febrio in the opening remarks, there's still a huge gap in Indonesia for financing, but I think also globally, the financing that's being made available now in the international community for climate is still far deficient from achieving the global targets for emission reduction and the kind of the 2-degree limit that we all place on global warming. So one of the mechanisms that hasn't been mentioned yet is carbon trading. So could I ask you, how does the government of Korea plan to engage in carbon trading, for instance, under Article 6 of the Climate Convention? And would you see Indonesia there as a trade partner?
You mean the carbon trading system?
Yes, yeah.
As for my experience, the carbon trading system is a very important issue for the Korean Environmental Ministry because it's related to the overseas reductions of the carbon. So, and we have many projects between Korea and Indonesia. So we really want Indonesia actively discover the overseas reduction project for the Korean government. So, but if you want the specific information, I connect the expertise and then official government. So,
okay, thank you. From the government, I just we still have a couple of minutes. I would like to move back to the private sector, and again we have one of the global corporate leaders in our group, Ibu Shinta Kandani from the Syntesa Group, and also the Angel Investment Network Indonesia. Ibu Shinta, I believe the Korean investors are very eager to learn about your investment networks. Could you tell us a little more about this Angel Investment Network in Indonesia, and what are its specific or unique characteristics, and how could the Korean investors engage with this network?
Yes, thank you, Marcel. I think in terms of the Indonesia angel investor landscape and segmentation, there are not many difference between Indonesia and other regions, obviously. Angel investors mainly intervene at the very early stage or at the start of the business, where the entrepreneurs have only a minimum viable products. So the risk obviously is the highest for most enterprises. And during this time, the investor, only very few, I think, investors will be willing to put in their money in those startups specifically. So we call the non-formal structure, we call it raise funding from family, friends, and fools. That's what we call the 3F. And I think in Indonesia, the ecosystem actually, when I started about 10 years ago, it was a very, still very mature. So there's, I mean, we basically, I was starting like the first actual Asian investment network in Indonesia. And today, I think we are one of the largest. In the Indonesian market, there's an increasing number, of course, over the years on investment by angel investors. And right now, if I may just share that Indonesia ranked to the second largest early stage capital market in Southeast Asia after Singapore, with total early stage investment amounting $582 million in 2019, or 7 to 9% increase from 2018. Sorry, 79% increase from 2018. In terms of the capacity of investment, due to the significant risks associated with pre-seed and seed stages, angel investors in Indonesia rarely invest sum larger than $500,000. The average ticket size is about 25 to 200,000. Now, however, unlike the institution investor that tend to stick to for financial driver, angel investors tend to also have a non-financial driver, such as achieving self-directed goals or contributing to social or environment. Angel investors may also invest in sector agnostic for impact. We found that also impact investing landscape is moving towards more climate resilience investment, with forests and land contribute the highest capital deployed for more than $114 million, while food and agri-business represent one of the highest investment number, with total 21 investments so far. Now, looking at the broader stand, we also see another opportunity for in climate and impact investing through this COVID-19, and agriculture and supply chain efficiency especially present a good opportunity to grow during the COVID-19. These sectors have proven to be the country's supporting pillar. Moreover, with the lockdown, the role of agriculture e-commerce has been crucial to also mature the flow of essential agro-commodities. Also, circular economy and waste management. I think as supply chains of many industries are disrupted and household and medical waste are spiking up, the notion of circular economy and waste management have become much more important and has featured actually prominently in conversation around building back better. So the crisis presents opportunity for angel investors to reshape current system to become more environmentally conscious and responsible than before. More importantly, I think to facilitate also the investment from angel to climate-driven entrepreneurs, to the role of angel investment networks such as what we have in Angin is crucial, especially for foreign entrepreneurs who does not have the network to these individuals and familiar with the culture. I think Angin is currently the most active and largest early stage investment and angel investment network in Indonesia. We have over worked with over 1,000 early startup, and in the past also we have actually worked with South Korean startup to have the opportunity to pitch in front of more than 100 investors. So this program is a result of partnership between Korea International Trade Association, Korean Creative Content Agency, and Angin. So looking in the broader sense, I think Angin can also bring significant part, not only helping international entrepreneurs in gaining investment, but also providing support on Indonesia's business landscape and improving climate investment readiness for enterprises. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Shinta. So Angin really helps to have a new wind blowing over Indonesia. I would like to thank you for your insights, and also the other panel members, Ibu Lakshmi from the Indonesian government, Ibu Sunyi Lee from the Ministry of Environment of Korea, Mr. Young-Wan Ryu from the Action Bank. I think we got perspectives both from the government side, from the private sector side, from the bank side on climate financing. And I think we learned a lot of about the opportunities for closing the finance gap, but there's still a lot of work to be done. I would like to thank also Leo Park from GCF for his insights and the scene setting, his opening presentation. And yeah, an applause for all these excellent speakers. I would like to hand back now to the moderator. I think we're going to go into a short break before we move to the next session in the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you once again. A big round of applause for our panelists as well as our moderator. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a heated discussion. Thank you once again to our panels for their insight and input. And with this, we will now take a close for the first session and take a short break. Let us take a short 10-minute break so that you can get some fresh air as well as getting the stage cleared over on our side. And I have just heard from our organizers that we would like to resume, in fact, at 30 past, so 4:30 on our side in Korea Standard Time. And I believe that that is 2:30 in the afternoon for Indonesia. So excuse me for cutting short our time for a break, but please do take a short break and we will resume with session 2. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, for your patience. I believe that we had a little bit more time for our short break. I hope you enjoyed the fresh air. And now, now we will move on to our second session. Our second session is titled A Technology Focus, Assessing Climate Technology Needs and Priorities in Indonesia. And I believe that we also have a round of panelists for the presentations and the panel discussions. So please allow me to introduce our panelists. First and foremost, Mr. Uksang An, the head of KDB Climate Business Team, is here with us and will also be moderating the session. Mr. Andre Chicherin, Manager of Innovations, Technology, and Co-Funding at GCF, is online with us as well. Deputy Chairman Yudi Anantasena, Technology and Natural Resources, BPPT Indonesia, is online with us as well. Mr. Joshua Augusta, Venture Fund Director of PT Mandiri Capital, Indonesia, is joining us today. Mr. Chongtae Kim, CEO of MYSC, and of course, Mr. Taehyun Kim, Director of InGen. So please give a big round of applause to all 6 of our panelists. Thank you very much. And if you are ready, our moderator, Mr. Uksang An, I give the floor to you.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Uksang An. I'm the head of crime business team at the Korea Development Bank. I'm so pleased to invite all the great speakers, listen to them, and have a conversation in person as a moderator for the second session. As you all read the second session entitled Technology Focus, Assessing Climate Technology Needs and Priorities in Indonesia. One of the hot global trends nowadays under the UNFCCC is to combat climate change through technology transfer. I personally guess it's amazing because technology transfer and locally fit customization empowered the GCF member countries. It's beyond one of assistance. In the same way, the theme of technology seems quite proper, considering such global trend. In actual, technology is a simple word, but it's not a simple or easy topic. It's tremendously challenging to support technology development and nurture technology-intensive industries aligned with the local circumstances. It takes time, very time-consuming, and it requires invest in human resources and R&D activities. So today we invite Andre from the Green Climate Fund, the largest multilateral global climate fund, which has been continuously keen on climate technology initiatives. He is a key specialist in the area of technology and innovation at the GCF. Hi, Andre.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So pleased to invite you. I appreciate your participation, our busy schedule there.
Thank you very much. I would like to share my screen.
Okay. Take your time.
Presentation. Unfortunately, I do not see that video is going through, but hopefully my presentation is visible.
Yes. Yes, we can see your presentation.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. So let me start with my presentation. Distinguished panel members, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank the organizers for the opportunity to take part in this panel on the joint Korea-Indonesia workshop, Accelerating Climate Technology and Entrepreneurship, dedicated to the assessment of climate technology needs and priorities in Indonesia. As the head of Innovation, Technology Transfer and Co-Funding Platforms team of the Green Climate Fund, I believe that the relevance and importance of this topic for the climate action in this context cannot be overestimated. As an operating entity of financing mechanism under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Green Climate Fund is mandated by the world to support mitigation and adaptation climate projects in the developing countries. Recognizing the importance of innovation and technology, GCF duly commits its financial resources, takes risks, and provides concessional funding to facilitate the development and transfer of impactful technologies and innovations to the benefit of climate vulnerable countries, including least developed countries. It is obvious that the sheer scale of challenges to be addressed by humanity facing the adverse effects of the climate change cannot be solved by a simple matching of the problems with equal amount of resources and funding. Innovation and advanced technological solutions can help us to overcome constraints of limited time and money to effectively reach the goals of sustainable and resilient development that is aspired by the world countries. Innovation support is one of the main principles underpinning GCF mandate to facilitate mitigation and adaptation projects. With the adoption of the Paris Agreement in 2015, technology development and transfer has been recognized as a core enabling element to limit global average temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The GCF board confirmed current GCF modalities to support technology development and transfer. At COP meetings, parties encouraged GCF to report information on approved projects that support innovation in climate technologies. In conformity with these guiding principles, a dedicated innovation, technology transfer, and co-funding platforms team was established at the private sector facility of the Green Climate Fund. At this stage, the key focus of the team activities is to develop impactful portfolio of technology-based innovative projects that can be endorsed by accredited entities and developed into the funding proposals. Last December, Green Climate Fund celebrated its 10th anniversary and now begins its second decade with $20 billion of capital pledges from its donor countries, 159 approved projects, and $7.3 billion of funding commitments. The fund pays specific attention to the needs of societies that are highly vulnerable to the effects of the climate change, in particular least developed countries and African states. Innovation is perceived as a glorious endeavor, unfortunately only after it ends successfully. Many projects and ideas end up in the Death Valley after trials and errors. An unknown number of promising ideas have been abandoned because they were unable to overcome technological, financial, and other risks and contexts hostile to them from the beginning. In this situation, the role of Green Climate Fund and Innovation, Technology Transfer, and Co-Funding Platforms team is acting to catalyze investments in early growth stage high-impact climate technologies to support innovation in mitigation and adaptation projects. Technology transfer for developing countries facilitates similar activities undertaken by accredited entities and other innovation and technology partners, and promote effective development of innovative funding solutions. Innovation, technology transfer, and co-funding platforms team activities are informed by the level of technological and commercial readiness of relevant climate technologies. As the technology readiness level progresses, proposed technological solutions get visibility at the screening level of the team, At this stage, we take note and assess potential viability of innovative technologies. Further on, when the idea gets to the early stages of commercial readiness build-up, we proactively engage with the technology developers and facilitate arrangements with accredited entities and other relevant stakeholders interested in the development support. By the time this technology reaches commercial scale-up, we can fully support it with a GCF-funded project. As the largest international financial organization dedicated to address climate change issues, GCF aims its support on mitigation and adaptation projects in developing countries, based on the country ownership principle and confirmed by non-objection letters. In our support, we target 8 key result areas: energy, transport, building industries and appliances, forests and land use, livelihoods, infrastructure, health, food and water security, and ecosystems. GCF project support is granted after a rigorous process of review and appraisal of the funding proposals against 6 investment criteria: paradigm shift, impact potential, sustainable development potential, needs of the recipient, country ownership, and economic efficiency and effectiveness. Project assessment and evaluation takes into account wider impacts related to environmental, social, and gender aspects of the proposed activities and outcome. This comprehensive analysis requires extra effort from the project developers to prepare their ideas for consideration and support by GCF. Recognizing that fact, GCF allocates funding support on concessional terms. Our loan funding terms less expensive and can be extended over longer periods. GCF is a risk-taking institution. Therefore, we are ready to become equity providers for the promising project developers and can allocate additional funding for technical support and capacity building in the form of grants. Accredited entities are an integral part of GCF operational modality. As of today, we have several dozen of accredited entities, ranging from the largest international financial institutions like World Bank, IFC, major multilateral development banks, and of course our good partner in Asia, Korea Development Bank, major international commercial financial organizations, and going all the way to local partners, direct access entities from specific countries like PTSMI that help us to assess, develop, and implement our projects and programs. I hope my presentation helped you better understand the Green Climate Fund and how it can help you with your innovative project ideas. For more information, I invite you to visit our website, gcfund.org, and get in touch with me and my colleagues during this event, as well as after it. We will be delighted to discuss support for your innovative project ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Good presentation. Very comprehensive for everyone. Appreciate. Technological solutions are expected to play a key role in reducing emission and vulnerability. I'm sure no one denies it. It's agreed by everyone, but the issue is how to operationalize it on the ground. It's also important for me and my KDB colleague. As an accredited entity of the GCF, KDB is now developing a technology transfer program, and we often face a strong need of support from local stakeholders who know the Indonesian context very well. In that regard, I am so happy to invite the great panelists. First, I would like to ask every panelist about how should a technology transfer program be designed so that the recipient's local technology entrepreneurs can be the center of the innovation process. May I kick off the panel discussion from UD? Mr. UD, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. To respond the question, I have prepared my presentation, but maybe I will skip some to solve the time. Then I will direct to page 4. The minister at which all activity at BDPT is supervised and coordinated stipulate national research priority in 2020 until 2024 and promulgate within the government regulation number 38. In this decrease, climate change is accommodated under priority number 9. A state multidisciplinary and across mission,
Mr. D, we cannot hear your presentation. It may be some technical problem. Mr. Yudi, can you hear me? Maybe we have some technical problem on the UD side, so I want to move on to the second panelist, Mr. Joshua Augusta. Please give your opinion on the general question.
So first of all, I think just to comment on the question, distribution of technology for innovation in Indonesia, I believe. I think the root of it is on the fundamental questions on whether, number one, technology for climate change is something that our entrepreneurs are working on at the moment. So it used to be an issue of marketability, first of all. So not a lot of innovation, not a lot of entrepreneurs are working on ESG-driven or impact-driven companies. But speaking of founders and startup founders in general, nowadays, especially after the emergence of our unicorns, which actually provides a lot of impact to our economy, more and more new startup founders, new innovators are currently working on companies that are highly correlated to, let's say, climate changes and ESG-driven values and SDG-driven companies. And they are building companies that from the very beginning are actually tackling impact issues in Indonesia. So to answer the question, I think moving forward, due to this third wave of founders emerging, especially in Indo, the future for climate change technology in Indonesia is quite exciting. And the enablers for those technology are quite common at the moment. So it's interesting to see.
Thank you, Joshua. I want to the next panelist, Mr. Jung-tae Kim. Please give your opinion.
Hi everyone, my name is Jung-tae Kim, CEO of Media Social Company. We're a social innovation consultancy and impact investor founded in 2011. And we used to operate an acceleration program in Indonesia 3 years ago together with Quick and Kotra. And I'm happy to be one of those panelists. I'd like to talk about collective impact and partnership with corporations as the two essential components that we need to think about when it comes to designing a stronger technology transfer program. As we all know, issues we are all interested in addressing, like climate change, are a combination of different issues and complexity, as you know. So problems are so complex, so that our approaches to them needs to be more sophisticated and articulated accordingly. For example, plastic waste is a huge issue in Korea as well as in Indonesia, I think, as well. And addressing plastic waste requires many layers of efforts, including collecting effectively plastic bottles, cleaning up them properly, and making them small chips efficiently, and recycling or upcycling them into value-added items as well. Each steps, as you know, require different in-depth knowledge as well as competencies, so that a single technology or entrepreneur couldn't handle all of these issues. So we need teams of entrepreneurs with different skill sets and technology. And beyond this, we need corporations who are interested also in creating new markets and new business models. So in light of best practice of Korea acceleration innovation, here comes two essential components. First, collective impact, and second, partnership with corporations. So what do I mean by collective impact? Meaning teaming up with best entrepreneurs that collectively work toward a shared goal. Without this approach, investing in or accelerating one or couple of startups may end up with successful startup stories, but would never contribute to solving social and environmental problems as we all want. So collective impact also includes not only entrepreneurs, but also investors, institutions, communities, and government as needed. And secondly, what about partnership with corporations? Corporations themselves are under pressure, ESG these days, to initiate financially viable but also socially and environmentally impactful new business opportunities, as you all know. They want it, but starting it is very difficult, as they are mostly geared toward existing markets, not well prepared for brand new business opportunities. For these regions, they tend to see startups as their R&D partners. And if they are well matched to relevant startups, those corporations are open to collaborating with the startups. This is often called, as you know, open innovation. Our next panel, Daeun Kim from Injin, is I think, a key example in this regard as well. So my company co-designed with SK Innovation, which is the #1 energy company in Korea, the first open innovation program called Social Venture for Social Value Impact Partnering Program. And through this initiative, we sourced around 100 startups and finally selected 4 startups, and including Injin there. And Injin eventually got an impact investing from SK Innovation and us. This was around $5 million in total. And with this investment, Injin and SK Innovation started an initiative called Carbon Free Island in Vietnam last year. I think Daeun, our next panel, could tell us more story about this. Having said that, I touched upon 2 approaches. The first one is forming collective impact to team up with best startups. And secondly, partnering with corporations, mobilizing their resources and interests and assets so that we could better design the technology transfer program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jung-tae Kim. Next, Mr. Daeun Kim, please.
Thank you, Mr. An. I'm very honored to be invited to this workshop. Actually, Mr. Jung-tae Kim already took all of my introduction part, so I would like to thank you back.
No, I just briefly mentioned this, so you go in detail, please.
Sure.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm honored to be invited. I believe the reason why I'm invited to this workshop is, first of all, that we are working on the renewable energy technology, developing a wave energy converting system, starting from 2010 as a startup in Korea.
However, also the reason why I'm invited here, I believe, is because we're currently working on a project in Indonesia for Penida Island, Nusa Penida, since last 2018. My comments, since it's based on the actual practice and cases, there might be some harsh or direct comments, but I believe it's okay. I believe that's the reason why we are also having here the workshop to actually face the practice and realistic situation. So I hope it's okay and understandable. The question that Mr. An gave us, I believe as a technology owner, we might have one or two concerns regarding the technology transfer. First of all, as everyone is aware, the intellectual property protection might be one of the area that we have to work on to make this technology transfer smoothly. Of course, it could be done by regulation, but I believe the better way to do is to have a reliable partner working together so that the results might be in the way that we want it to, not too hesitating the technology transfer, which means the screening process of the partners will be quite important. Secondly, it might be also very important that the transfer itself should be beneficiary to both of the parties, who is the technology owner, as well as the recipient in the local side. Because if it is only one-sided benefit, it will not make a smooth technology transfer, which doesn't meet the objective of this technology transfer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tae Kim. Dear UD, because the technical problem and the unstable internet connection, we skipped your opinion, sorry. But your thought is very important. May I request your presentation again?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I will continue. Apologize for the technical problem, but I will go to the national technology need assessment or Indonesian TNA priority. And as in this, you're right. You can see the Indonesian TNA is on resulted from the assessment. There are 3 sectors for mitigation and 3 others for adaptation, respectively. The sector for mitigation are energy, forestry, and waste, whereas for adaptation are food security, water resources, and coastal vulnerability. Next, please. Elaboratively, the TNA for mitigation consisting of 10 priorities technology for each sector is shown on your left matrix. Then, whereas for adaptation on your right, which also lists 10 technology. Next, bringing technology into commercial product is not an easy way go through, as Andrew already also said before, but I will share with you several technology products which are fulfilling those 2 aspects, TNA and the innovation process. The first one, what we have done in Indonesia by BPPT is waste to energy. We have what we call PLTSA, waste to energy in Jakarta. This technology has been developed and operate in collaboration with Jakarta province government. Next is to further process the biogas product into bio-CNG bottling to be used as a vehicle fuel, whether technology modification is the next, which are regularly being used to curb forest and land fires. Another product is biopit, bacterial fertilizer to increase the productivity of peatland. For air and water monitoring, BPT has also developed we call online monitoring system to measure air and water quality. The list can be extended with other products, but at least we have or we already fulfilled our national priority in field of in mitigation and adaptation sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dee. Let's go further into deep conversation. This time is to hear specific experiences of each panelist on. Mr. Dee, I know your agency is specialized in this field. Actually, a range of technology is wide and huge. What we need now for urgent action is specific and concrete information, because we must shortly take climate actions. My question to Mr. Yudi is that, considering a broad spectrum of technology and different needs of individual entities, what specific technologies does Indonesia need to further develop and promote in response to adverse climate change impact?
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. As I said before, we offer technology for waste to energy first, then also bio CNG, which is for vehicle fuel. We already process the biogas product into bio CNG bottling. Then we also can offer what we call biopit. It's a bacterial fertilizer to increase the productivity of peatland. Then also we can protect it or avoid people or farmer to burn site when they will to make what we call vegetation, new plantation. That's with the other one, or another one is also we can offer weather modification technology. That's maybe some example that we can offer to our partner. Then we can discuss later about the another things, but we can offer that technology that already ready to commercialize or something like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate your guidance on specific technology needs of Indonesia. We will keep all those in mind when we are developing a technology transfer program as an accredited entity of the GCF. Next time, I bring all your attention to our next speakers, Mr. Joshua Augusta. Above all, one of global institutional investors, KDB is very happy to have you, Joshua. I know Mandiri Capital is one of prominent technology business incubators in Indonesia. So KDB is very keen on listening to you today. Would it be great to consider our strategic partnership in the near future? So let's delve deeper into the Mandiri Capital subject. My first question is that, could you please share the incubation and acceleration ecosystem of Indonesia overall?
Okay, so thank you. Yeah, I'm coming from the investor perspective, definitely. So before Mandiri Capital, I had the experience of managing one of the largest and oldest incubation program in Indonesia called Indigo, and it was under Telkom Indonesia, another SOE from Indonesia. It's the largest telco. So I think just to try to encapsulate the ecosystem of accelerator and incubation in Indonesia. First of all, it's all about the evolution of the founder itself, the evolution of innovators. So I think when the incubation acceleration program start emerging in 2012, not so many founders who has the experience of building and running technology companies back then, right? 2012, there's no the unicorns, there's no seed investors, there's no Tokopedia, Gojek, Traveloka that we know today, right? So it was very, very tough back then. I think fast forward 8 years, 2020, the knowledge of the founders are getting better. Our knowledge about the ecosystem is getting better as well. I think the experience of the founder profile is quite different nowadays, where right now we can see a lot of the quote-unquote alumni of these unicorns in Indonesia. They are starting a new breed of hopefully great companies, right? And if we think about it, these people, these founders, are people who has the experience of running high-tech, high-growth companies in Indonesia with foreign education as well, which is 5 to 10 years ago is very, very hard to find in Indonesia. So these new breed of founders bring a lot of optimism, definitely, for the acceleration and incubation space and ecosystem in Indonesia. So right now, if we can take a look into the acceleration and the incubation institution themselves, most of them are corporate run, good and bad actually. So I think the top 5 accelerators in Indonesia are backed by either an SOE, Set of Enterprise of Indo, or a conglomerate in Indonesia. So there's a good and bad in that. Number one, the good thing is that because they are backed by corporations, a lot of financial stability. I think most of accelerator programs are losing money, right? So by being backed by corporations or big conglomerates, you have the enough runway for you to be able to basically experience the inflection point and hopefully getting into profitability, right? I think that's a good point. But the bad point is that the bad thing about that is that sometimes the longevity, and this is, I think, the key word for the ecosystem of incubation acceleration in Indonesia, the longevity of the program is highly questionable because change of management, sometimes change of the direction of innovation, program can be closed anytime, right? So we see a lot of programs, a lot of acceleration and incubation programs in Indonesia come and go. Only a few handful that has been consistent for the last maybe 5+ years, ourselves included, Telkom, Indigo included. I think only less than 5 right now in Indonesia has been consistently available in the market. So longevity is key, and longevity is the byproduct of the way the operators of those incubation acceleration programs build the connection, especially with their alumni, right? Alumni relation, the alumni of the acceleration program. We see the best practices coming from Y Combinator, which is the investor of Dropbox, Airbnb, the big startups today, who manage their alumni network and investment network really, really well. In Indonesia today, I think from the previous panel, we can see that the tendency and also let's say interest to invest into high-tech, high-growth startups is continued to increase. So we need to, the incubator and accelerator operators need to basically preserve this. So I think that's my point.
Thank you. Well noted. One more question to Mr. Joshua. As a person in charge of KDB crime business, I'm so pleased to invite you and listen to you today. If our business partnership could be kindly accepted, what would be specific needs of Mandarin Capital? Please share your institution's appetite and special needs.
Sure. So our institution, because we are backed by Bank Mandiri, which is one of the largest financial institutions in Indonesia, we make investments into financial services or financial technology companies. In 4 years, we have invested into 15 companies, which I think in terms of return is not that bad, almost 4x return so far, and two exits that we have experienced out of those 15 companies. Starting this year, we are going to raise 2 new funds. Previously, we invested only from the balance sheet. Right now, we're going to invest from this fund this venture fund products as well. So the first one is called Mandiri Venture Fund. Basically, it's an early stage financial services investment vehicle. Basically, we see that the trend is where financial technology, financial services is going beyond just the real banking. So basically, now every company is a fintech company. So we would like to basically attract those opportunities as well. And the second one is actually, as mentioned before by Bu Shinta in the previous panel, we're going to co-manage Indonesia Impact Fund, which is a seed stage, early stage private impact investment vehicle for Indonesia. So that's going to be the first private impact investment fund in Indonesia. So in terms of cooperation, I believe that it will be great if we can work with KDB on those two new initiatives that we're going to launch this year. So to answer your question.
Thank you, Joshua. Next, we are going to run more the Korean ecosystem. I invite Mr. Jung-tae Kim, one of actively performing accelerators in Korea. Hi, Mr. Kim. My first question is that, as a company experienced in supporting innovators, what are the essentials needed to foster local entrepreneurs into maturity to ensure they will have full access to the global networks? Please.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think there are many essentials, but I would like to say, speak about just two stuff. The one is pairing, and the second is blended financing. As you know, technology that works in certain contexts does not always work in different settings. That's what we know. For this region, transferring technology only has a low chance of success. Then what do we need? We need to transfer technology together with entrepreneurs who have been making best use of those technologies, so that those entrepreneurs could be paired or matched to local entrepreneurs, so that they learn from each other and coming up with insight and manage to work out this new technology in new settings. I think this is one thing, pairing. The other thing that needs to be transferred together with technology is a financing scheme as well. To increase the chances of success, local entrepreneurs need patient capital for some period. And sourcing patient capital locally, as you imagine, is in general very difficult. So the technology transfer program should come along with financing scheme in the form of, for example, blended financing, including ODA, technical assistance grant, venture philanthropy, and impact investing, as we mentioned. I think Koika already started this kind of blended financing 2 years ago, so that the transfer technology program could stand a better chance of success.
Thank you. Your answer also covers my second question. So I want to move the last panelist, Mr. Taehyun Kim. Hope you are doing well. I know Engine is a clean energy company specialized in an onshore type wave energy converter technology. I'm witnessing Engine is transforming the paradigm of renewable technology areas by developing wave power generation with a rapid entry into the market. Mr. Kim, I would like to ask 4 questions about your experiences on business in Indonesia. Sorry for the numbers of questions.
No problem.
My first question is that please share your key climate technology on renewable wave energy and its implication for an application to Indonesia. For example, any lessons and challenges in working with Indonesian public and private stakeholders? How do you think government and international stakeholders can effectively support in technology transfer and localization process?
Actually, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to cover this question, but I'll try my best to answer it. Based on our introduction, our technology introduction has been done to Indonesia since last 2018. We've been working with them for more than 2 years now. Yes, there was some progress in working with them together in the public and private stakeholders, as well as we found some challenges and we found ourselves we had to come up with a solution how to overcome with that. So as this kind of renewable energy technology to be transferred into developing countries, the first barrier that we always see is the high R&D cost and how to be covered by who will be covered those costs. This is the challenge that we were facing, and based on the market survey, we found out as a solution that GCF might be the right approach for us to apply for, so that during the innovation period and transfer period, we can have some fund from GCF, which helps us to justify those R&D investments to convince our current partners, who is currently PTIP, and they agreed that this kind of approach will let them be more convinced to work on this project. So that was the first approach that we made, and we have done that successfully thanks to lots of partners and also government agencies such as Ministry of Finance from Indonesia, so that we got the non-objection letter. Thank you, and we're still working on the application to be approved for the GCF PPF process. One more challenge that I would like to mention here is that it seems not that transparent for the procedure of permit in the Indonesian side. When as a foreign investor to come into that market, it was not so easy to understand, and the lack of transparency makes us difficult how to work on with that. And for that, we had to rely on the local partners. As I've mentioned, the partner selection is really important to be successful on technology transfer to other locations. I think that covers most of the question. If I don't remember your question quite, because it was a large amount of question. Is it okay, or
okay?
Do I?
Okay.
Thank you.
I have 3 more questions to you. Based on your experience, what critical criteria should a project in growing market such as Indonesia have to attract global investors? You can answer in short.
Sure. So I think the key word here is scalability. I mean, the possibility of replication. Although the first initial investment could be done, but if the investors are not interested in repeating and actually making the money out of it, then the investors will not be attracted to work on that one-time project. So the startups who owns the technology has to be more concentrating on the scalability and replication.
Okay, thank you. My third question is that you already mentioned it. Investing R&D is very challenging due to its high cost and issues within the intellectual property protection. Considering that limitation, based on your experience, what do you think would be the best approach for Indonesia to reduce the risks?
There were already some good comments from the other panelists, such as Mr. Kim and Joshua. Mm-hmm. However, my opinion, one of the solutions we could consider is to reduce the barrier for foreigners to come into the Indonesian market regarding regulations or taxes. Maybe some kind of special cases for those technology transfers to be more attracted to the market. And maybe an easier way to build a joint venture in those markets would be one of the solutions that we can think of.
Okay, thank you. My last question is that based on your experience in project development, what approaches are necessary to initiate the first step in creating collaboration between large corporations and startups?
So this goes back to also the other panelists' comments. However, the cooperation between collaboration between large corporations and startups will be successful if their needs and wants will be matching. So for example, the startups usually who are the solution owners or the technology owners will be more interested in the capital of the corporations or the network and manpowers they have. Compared to that, the large corporations might be more interested in those technology or solutions, and they should be having some detailed and deep discussion how to collaborate in the right way. I mean, usually there are some companies who just provide technology and burned out, but I would say that's not a good case, and we would like to have a long-term relationship, which may be the initial phase. Before jumping into a kind of agreement, we should have more deep workshop or necessary discussions going on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your sharing your case in details and for your patience with my too many questions. Thank you. Now it's time to close the second session on climate technology. All the great speakers, thank you again for your intellectual contribution to this workshop. Now I will pass on the baton to MC.
Thank you very much. And congratulations and another big thank you to all of our presenters and panelists, and of course the moderator. Please give them another big round of applause. Thank you. Well, that brings us to close the second session, ladies and gentlemen. Today we had two different sessions looking at first the financing sector and second the technology. And I believe that our workshop or joint workshop today will only be the first of very many to come. Thank you once again to all of our panelists and moderators for your input, insight, as well as your valuable time to spend here with us. And so we move on to our last agenda item for today, which is titled The Concluding Remarks. And it's titled Summing Up the Road Ahead and the Path to Accelerated Climate Innovation in Indonesia. And we'll have two speakers gracing us in our third section. So first of all, I would like to introduce and welcome to the stage Mr. Choi Ho, the General Manager of ESG New Deal Planning Department at KDB Bank. So please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, distinguished delegates and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Choi Ho. I'm leading the ESG New Deal Planning Department at the Korea Development Bank. It's my honor to take this last opportunity to say on behalf of the KDB. Before we close the workshop, I would like to thank all the wonderful people for taking time out of your busy schedules. Great speakers who share their expertise, respected delegates who have given us warm support, both NDAs, whose leadership is essential for us, and the precious audience. Without you all, this workshop would have not had this success. Active discussion to find the right direction today will be a great foundation for our climate action in the near future. Now, we have reached the end of the workshop. Discussion, however, should continue. Many of you may know global discourse on the importance of technology transfer in response to the climate change risk is active under the UNFCCC. That conversation is so active that the GCF has set up a strategic goal of initiating technology-driven program. KDB is the first and only accredited entity in Korea, jointly working with the GCF to develop a technology-focused program entitled Collaborative R&D Program for Promoting the Innovation of the Climate Technopreneurship. Above all things, KDB is eager to partner with Indonesia in promoting this meaningful global initiative because Indonesia is an attractive market with great potential. We are keen on partnership and collaborative activities among innovation-driven players in both countries to be encouraged and arranged under the program. In this respect, as a person in charge of the KDB climate business, I again express my full gratitude to the Ministry of Finance of Indonesia for your permission. No objection letter. As promised in a ministerial coordination meeting, KDB will design the program to be aligned with the National Development Plan of Indonesia by listening to local counterparts and experts in the incubation and acceleration ecosystem. As we have embarked on this exciting journey, please offer us your advice and guidance. A strong bilateral cooperation between us is key to combat global climate change. Korea and KDB cannot do this alone. We can do it by partnering with you all. Now, Indonesia and Korea share the same objective. Our proposal to be approved by the GCF board. But our close partnership must go far beyond single initiative. Respected Indonesian colleagues, I have confidence that KDB is ready to partnering with you. Recently, KDB established the ESG New Deal Planning Department in order to drive green growth ambitions more active than before. Today's workshop is the first official event since the change in organizational structure completed. Now we are committed to leveraging our capacities and experiences to implement climate investment business according to the context and needs of Indonesia that will further unlock the private investment potential. Over the course of this journey, let's brainstorm together and seek for climate solutions with creative energy and passion. Today, we've done an online workshop because we are still amid the COVID-19 crisis. When the crisis is over, I sincerely look forward to seeing you all next time. Hopefully, shaking hands with a big hug. Today, we've done online workshop because we are still, sorry. Once again, thank you all who did so much in organizing the workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Che, for your remarkable comments in closing our section. And now I would also like to introduce one more lady to the stand, Ms. Dian Lestari, the Acting Director of the Center for Climate Finance and Multilateral Policy from the Ministry of Finance in Indonesia. She is currently logging on online, so please welcome her to the screen.
Thank you, moderator. Very good afternoon to everyone, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, my highest appreciation to all participants of today's Indonesia-Korea joint workshop on accelerating climate technology and entrepreneurship. Allow me to express my highest gratitude to the Ministry of Economy and Finance of Korea for co-organizing this workshop with us. And also from support from the Korea Development Bank and the Global Green Growth Institute. I would also like to personally thank our esteemed panelist, Ms. Laksmi Dewanti from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, Mr. Yudi Anantasena from the Agency for the Assessment and Application of Technology of Indonesia, Ms. Sun Yili from the Ministry of Environment of Korea, Ms. Sinta Kamdani from Sintesa Group, Mr. Jung Wan Ryu from Korea Exim Bank, Mr. Joshua Agusta from PT Mandiri Capital, Mr. Jeong Tai Kim from MYSC Korea, Mr. Dae Hyung Kim from Injin, and Mr. Leo Park and Mr. Andre Chicherin from the Green Climate Fund. Sorry for if I make a mispronunciation. I would like to thank to those names for bringing in their great knowledge and expertise to this workshop. From today's discussion, I hope we can achieve global ambition of Paris Agreement that requires concrete effort of all countries and technology innovation, where technology innovation plays a pivotal role to achieve the target. Innovative solution to tackle the problem of climate change mitigation and adaptation require support from innovative and updated technologies. We all understand that there are various barriers and challenges that currently still impeding effective climate technology development in Indonesia. This is one of the key reasons which motivated organizing this workshop. Throughout the course of this workshop, various solutions and best practices on how to accelerate climate technology and entrepreneurship was discussed intensively by our panel of experts. I hope that participants of the workshop can elaborate that these issues are not unsolvable and there is no silver bullet solution to these issues. On the other hand, we should face these as opportunities to invest and contribute towards development of climate technology in Indonesia. In the first session of the panel discussion on catalyzing climate investment, Ms. Dewanti has shared with us Indonesia financing gap that currently hinder our efforts to achieve NDC target. Furthermore, our colleague from the Ministry of Environment of Korea has expressed their interest and strategy to collaborate with the government of Indonesia to tackle this climate financing challenge together. Our panelists from the Angel Investment Network Indonesia, or ANGIN, and Korea Exim Bank have also shared their best practices in financing successful climate-related businesses. I hope it will encourage our participants, especially to those from the private sector with climate-related projects, to take note and apply valuable lessons in increasing projects' financial viability for future investment and accelerating countries' overall climate finance deployment. Furthermore, I would like to encourage all participants to appreciate, study, and apply best possible practices in accelerating, supporting, and developing innovative climate technology and entrepreneurships that was shared by our panelists from Mandiri Capital, Mary Year Social Company, or MYSC, and Injin, at the second session of a panel discussion. As alluded by Mr. Antasena at the early session, it is necessary for Indonesia to significantly increase the amount of climate technological innovation and entrepreneurship through leveraging global technological advances in order to achieve successful nations' climate ambitions. This is a very challenging task which requires active involvement from all related stakeholders, both from public and private sector. I hope that today's joint workshop was able to provide an initial platform of discussion to exchange knowledge and information regarding the acceleration of climate technology and entrepreneurship. The contribution of the climate technopreneurship in climate change mitigation and adaptation agenda will not only help nations to achieve their NDC targets, but also significantly contribute towards the nation economy and technology development. Fiscal Policy Agency, as the NDA GCF of Indonesia, will work closely with KDB in project preparation, which theme collaborative research, development, and business program for promoting the innovation of climate technopreneurship. This project has been provided a non-objection letter from the NDA last month. It ensures a program's design of the project accommodate for all stakeholders' inputs and provide necessary platform for local climate technopreneurship to access global resources. Lastly, I would like to remind our colleagues from the government of Korea that further discussion on this issue will strictly continue after this workshop, and we do hope to strengthen this mutual beneficial collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you once again, Ms. Lestari, for the great closing remarks. I believe both of our closing remarks speakers have given us a great summary of the joint workshop that we went through today, as well as some messages of aspirations for the future as well. I truly hope that the discussions and ideas that were brought up today during our joint workshop will be the seeds for providing future collaborative R&DB programs for promoting innovation of climate technopreneurship, of course, to build the resilience of Indonesia to climate change. Once again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen and delegates, for your time and input today, and I hope to see you again in the future. Thank you very much.